dashboard again, heart racing, eyes locked, waiting for numbers to move, waiting for something to change, because this is not just a page anymore. This is a battlefield, a silent war where attention is currency and every second counts. And right now, you are standing at the edge of that battlefield wondering one thing. How do people actually turn a simple Facebook page into a money machine? How do ordinary posts transform into income streams? And why does it feel like everyone else is winning while you are stuck watching from the sidelines? Because here's the truth no one tells you. Monetizing a Facebook page is not about luck. It's not about posting random content. And it's definitely not about shortcuts. It's about understanding a system that is invisible to most people. A system driven by psychology, algorithms, timing, and strategy. And the moment you start seeing Facebook not as a social app, but as a business platform, everything changes. The way you post changes, the way you think changes, even the way you observe people changes, and because suddenly every like, every share, every comment becomes a clue, a signal, a piece of a much bigger puzzle. Imagine this, two creators start at the same time, our same phone, same internet, same opportunity, but 6 months later, one is earning consistently while the other is still struggling for reach. What changed? Was it talent? Was it luck? Or was it understanding? Because the one who succeeds doesn't just post content. They study behavior, they analyze reactions, they notice patterns, they see what others ignore. And this is where monetization begins. Not with money, but with attention. Because if you don't have attention, you don't have leverage. And without leverage, monetization is just a dream. Now let's break the illusion. Many people believe that just creating a Facebook page is enough, and they think followers equal income. But that's where most people fail, because followers without engagement are like an empty stadium. It looks big, but there's no energy, no interaction, no value. And Facebook knows this. The algorithm is designed to reward connection, not just numbers. So if your audience isn't reacting, commenting, sharing, your page stays invisible, no matter how many followers you have. And that's the first harsh reality you need to accept. And then comes the turning point. The moment when a creator realizes that content is not about them, it's about the audience, their emotions, their curiosity, their problems, their desires. Because people don't scroll Facebook to support you. They scroll for entertainment, for information, for escape. And if your content doesn't give them that within the first few seconds, they move on instantly, without thinking. And that single scroll can cost you reach, engagement, and eventually money. This is where strategy takes over instinct. Successful creators don't guess, they test, they observe which posts perform, which topics trigger reactions, which formats keep people watching longer. Because watch time, retention, engagement, these are not just metrics, these are signals that tell Facebook one thing. This content matters. And when Facebook believes your content matters, it pushes it further to more people. And that's when growth begins, real growth, not fake spikes, not temporary boosts, but consistent, scalable reach. But here's where it gets intense, because growth brings pressure. The pressure to maintain quality and the pressure to stay relevant, the pressure to not lose momentum. And this is where many creators collapse. They burn out, they lose direction, they start chasing trends instead of building identity. And slowly, their page becomes just another account in the crowd. No uniqueness, no authority, no reason for people to stay. And without that, monetization slips away again. Now think about monetization itself. Now it's not just one method. It's an ecosystem, ad revenue, brand deals, affiliate marketing, digital products, fan subscriptions. Each one requires a different mindset and a different approach. And most people fail because they try everything at once without mastering anything, yeah? They jump from one method to another, hoping something will work. But real creators, serious creators, they pick a path, they understand it deeply, they build around it, and that's how income starts flowing. And then comes the moment everyone waits for the first earning. It might be small, almost insignificant, but psychologically, it changes everything, yeah? Because now it's real. Now it's not just effort, it's reward. And that reward fuels consistency, and it builds confidence, and it creates belief. And belief is the most powerful asset in this entire journey. Because without belief, you quit, you doubt, you slow down, but with belief, you push harder, You stay longer, you grow stronger. So, as you stand here at the beginning of this journey, understand this clearly. Facebook monetization is not a trick, it's a transformation from a casual user to a strategic creator, from posting randomly to posting with purpose, from chasing likes to building value. And in the next part, we dive deeper into the actual mechanics, the real requirements, the hidden rules, the exact steps that turn a simple page into a monetized asset. Because this story is just getting started, and what comes next might completely change the way you see Facebook forever. Part 2. The moment you step deeper into this world, the illusion starts to break because suddenly it's not just about posting anymore, it's about qualifying, about meeting invisible checkpoints that most creators don't even realize exist. And this is where the real game begins because Facebook doesn't just hand out monetization to anyone who shows up, it watches silently, measuring your consistency, your originality, your audience behavior, almost like a gatekeeper deciding who deserves to enter and who stays outside, endlessly trying. And this is the part where most people either level up or quietly disappear. Because behind every monetized page, there are requirements, not just technical ones, but behavioral ones. Facebook looks at your content and asks questions you never hear. Are people actually watching this? Are they staying till the end? Are they interacting or are they scrolling past without a second thought? And these questions shape your future more than any single post you create. Because if your content fails these silent tests, monetization remains out of reach no matter how hard you try. Now imagine this scenario. You've been posting consistently for weeks, maybe months. You're getting some likes, a few shares, but nothing explosive, nothing that feels like a breakthrough. And that's where frustration starts creeping in. You begin to doubt yourself. You wonder if it's even worth it. But what most people don't realize is that this phase, this slow, almost invisible growth phase, is where Facebook is actually evaluating you the most. This is where your habits are formed, your style is shaped, your understanding deepens, and if you survive this phase, you're already ahead of most creators. But survival alone isn't enough because the platform rewards precision, not effort alone. You need to understand what kind of content triggers reach, and more importantly, what kind of content qualifies for monetization. Because not all viral content is monetizable. And that's a mistake many creators make. They chase views without realizing that certain types of content won't earn them anything. And when they finally reach the threshold, they realize they built an audience but not a business. This is where awareness becomes power because Facebook monetization comes with rules, originality, community standards, content guidelines, and these aren't just formalities. They are filters designed to protect the platform and its advertisers. So if your content includes reused clips, copyrighted material, or anything that violates these guidelines, it doesn't matter how viral it gets, it won't qualify. And in some cases, it can even get your page restricted or permanently blocked from earning. And then comes one of the most critical turning points, understanding the difference between views and value. Because views can be misleading, you can get thousands, even millions of views. But if those views don't convert into engagement, trust, or retention, they don't mean much in the long run. Because advertisers, brands, even Facebook itself care about impact, not just numbers. They want audiences that listen, that react, that trust the creator. And that's what turns a page into a monetizable asset. Now think about the structure of your content, the opening seconds, the pacing, the storytelling, the emotional triggers. Every element matters because Facebook's algorithm tracks how people behave with your content in real time. If they stop scrolling, if they watch longer, if they interact, these signals push your content further. And the more your content gets pushed, the closer you get to meeting monetization thresholds. But if people skip, scroll, ignore, the system pulls back, reducing your reach, limiting your growth, and delaying your progress. And here's where discipline comes into play, because consistency is not just about posting daily. It's about maintaining quality while staying relevant. It's about showing up even when the results aren't immediate, even when the growth feels slow. Because every post is data, every reaction is feedback, and the more you post with intention, the faster you learn what works and what doesn't. And that learning curve is what separates successful creators from those who give up too soon. But let's talk about something deeper. something most tutorials ignore: mindset. Because monetization is not just a technical process, it's a psychological journey. There will be moments of doubt, moments of comparison, moments where you feel like others are progressing faster. And in those moments, your mindset determines your outcome. Because if you start chasing shortcuts, copying others blindly, or losing your unique voice, you lose the very thing that could have made you stand out. And finally, also the moment when everything starts aligning, also your content improves, the more your audience grows, or your engagement increases, and suddenly, although as you start seeing signs, your videos reaching more people, or your posts getting shared, your page gaining momentum, and that's when you realize this is working, not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily, and that steady growth is the foundation of real monetization. Because in the next phase, things get even more intense. Now we move beyond just growth into actual earning method. The different ways Facebook allows you to generate income, the strategies behind each one, and the decisions that can either multiply your earnings and or limit your potential, because you're not just building a page, you're building a system, and what you do next determines how far this journey can really go. Part 3. And now the story shifts, because once you cross that invisible line of growth, something changes in the way you think. You stop seeing your Facebook page as just a platform, and you start seeing it as a system, a machine that can either generate income and or sit quietly collecting attention without converting it. And this is where monetization becomes real, not theoretical, not hopeful, but practical. Because now you are stepping into the actual earning methods that Facebook offers, and each one comes with its own rules, its own risks, and its own rewards. Let's start with one of the most talked about method, SD ad revenue. Because when people hear about earning on Facebook, this is usually the first thing they imagine: money coming from views. But here's the truth: most people don't see at first. Ad revenue isn't just about view, it's about watch time. It's about keeping people engaged long enough for ads to even appear. And if your content can't hold attention, the ads don't matter, because they won't even be shown. Now imagine a creator uploading a video, hoping for a breakthrough, and watching the views climb slowly: 100, 1,000, 10,000, but the watch time drops off too quickly. People lose interest, they leave early, and suddenly, despite the view, the revenue remains almost nothing. This is where understanding human attention becomes critical, because if you can't hold attention, you can't monetize it. But ad revenue is just one part of the bigger picture, because Facebook monetization is not limited to one income stream. There's also brand collaborations. And this is where things start to feel more like a business than just content creation. Because now you are no longer just posting for the audience, you are posting with value for brands. You are positioning yourself as a voice, a platform, a place where brands can reach real people. And this is where your page identity becomes important, because brands don't just look at numbers, they look at relevance, they look at audience type. They ask questions like, does this creator's audience match our target market? Does their content align with our message? Can we trust this page to represent us? And if the answer is yes, that's when opportunities start coming in. But before that happens, you need to build something powerful, lot trust, because trust is the currency that makes everything else possible. When your audience trusts you, they listen to your recommendations, they engage with your content, they follow your suggestions, and that's when monetization becomes scalable. Because now you're not just earning from Facebook, you're earning through influence. And then there's affiliate marketing, a method that many creators underestimate. But when done correctly, it can become one of the most powerful income streams. Because instead of relying on ads or waiting for brand deals, you promote products and earn a commission for every sale. But this only works if your audience trusts your recommendation, because people can sense when something is forced and when it is genuine. Now imagine a creator who carefully selects products, only promoting things that match their content, their niche, their audience interests, and instead of pushing aggressively, they present it naturally, like a solution, like something that adds value, and over time, people begin to click, to buy, to trust. And suddenly, the creator is earning, not from views, but from influence, But here's where many creators make a critical mistake. They try to monetize too early, they rush into selling, promoting, pushing offers before they've built enough trust or engagement. And what happens then? The audience disconnects. The page loses authenticity and growth slows down because people don't want to feel like they are being sold to. They want value, they want connection, they want something real. And then there's the concept of digital products, something that changes the entire game when done right, because instead of relying on external brands or platforms, you create something yourself, something valuable, something that your audience can buy, like guides, courses, templates, knowledge based products. And this is where creators evolve into entrepreneurs. Because now you are not just earning from Facebook, you are building something beyond it, something that can exist independently, something that can generate income even when you're not actively posting. And that's when true financial freedom starts to feel possible. But every method comes with a challenge. And in monetization, the biggest challenge is consistency because it's easy to start, easy to get excited, but hard to maintain, hard to stay focused, hard to keep improving when results fluctuate. And this is where many creators fail, not because they lack talent, yeah, but because they lack endurance. And then comes another hidden factor, audience psychology. And because your audience is not just watching passively, they are reacting, judging, deciding whether to stay or leave. And every piece of content either strengthens or weakens that connection. And once that connection is strong, that everything becomes easier. Monetization, growth, engagement, everything starts aligning. Now picture this moment. A creator checks their dashboard and for the first time sees consistent earnings, not just once, but repeatedly and steadily, and that moment changes everything. Because now, this is not just a hobby anymore, it's a system, a process, a skill. And once you understand that, you stop guessing and start building. And in the next part, we go even deeper into the strategies behind scaling, how creators grow from small earnings to serious income, how they optimize their content, how they analyze performance, and how they turn a simple Facebook page into a long-term sustainable income source, because what comes next is where real mastery begins. Part 4. And now the story tightens, because this is where creators separate into two paths. One path leads to slow, uncertain progress, and the other leads to structured growth, predictable income, and a system that actually scales. And the difference between these two paths is not talent, it's strategy. Because once monetization begins, the real question is no longer how do I earn? The real question becomes how do I scale what's already working? And that question changes everything. At this stage, you are no longer experimenting blindly. You are observing patterns because patterns are everything. You start noticing which posts perform better, which topics spark reactions, which formats keep people watching, and slowly you begin to understand something powerful. Your audience is predictable, not individually, but collectively. And if you can understand that collective behavior, you can guide it, shape it, and ultimately monetize it more effectively. Now think about content not as posts, but as systems within your system. Each video, each image, each caption plays a role. Some content is designed to attract, some is designed to engage, some is designed to convert. And when you start organizing your content like this, you are no longer just posting randomly. You are building funnels, silent pathways that guide your audience from awareness to action, from curiosity to trust, from trust to income. But here's where most creators struggle: consistency at scale. Because it's easy to be consistent when you are small, not when you are just starting, but when growth begins, when expectations rise, and when your audience starts watching more closely, that's when pressure builds, and suddenly, yeah, consistency becomes harder, and quality becomes harder, creativity becomes harder, and if you're not prepared, this is where momentum breaks. So what do successful creators do differently? They build systems. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on structure. They plan content in advance. They create batches. They analyze data. They repeat what works and they eliminate what doesn't. And this removes guesswork because now every action is intentional. Every post has a purpose and every decision contributes to growth. And then comes one of the most powerful tools in monetization, the analytics. Because